and answers. And you probably get a pop-up that says acknowledgement of recording. And we also, at the end, will have some fabulous Fat Girls Hiking giveaways that we'll have a random drawing for. So our guest this evening is living her best life, exploring magnificent hikes throughout this country and spreading the word of accessibility to the great outdoors by every single person, regardless of their size or ability. As a lifelong writer and an accomplished photographer, being asked to write a book about her experiences and dedication to community, fat activism, and outdoor spaces that leaves no one behind was truly a dream come true. By writing a resource for outdoorsy people who rarely ever saw themselves represented in the mainstream, Summer created Fat Girls Hiking, an inclusive guide to getting outdoors at any size or ability. Whether you're an experienced or aspiring hiker, you'll be empowered to hit the trails and find yourself in nature following the Fat Girls Hiking motto, trails, not scales. Please join me in welcoming Summer Michaud-Skog. Turn it over to you.
Thank you. Wow, that was an amazing introduction, honestly. I love that this is the first event of your guys' series, and it's my last on my book tour, and I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much for having me. So I'm going to talk about my book, and I'm going to talk about the organization that I started, Fat Girls Hiking. Really so excited that it's a book. Honestly, it is, like she said, a dream come true for me to publish a book as a writer. I never thought it would happen for me. So it's been awesome. And I just want to talk a little bit about how I started Fat Girls Hiking, and then I'll read a little bit from the book and then talk a little bit more, and then we'll have some questions in the end of the session, and y'all can put those in the chats at any time if it comes up. Fat Girls Hiking started in 2015. Really, it was like I was hiking a bunch around the Portland, Oregon area where I was living at the time, and I am a photographer, and I'm, really was kind of starting to like Instagram, was kind of unsure about social media. But I liked sharing my photos, and I liked sort of having a platform to share my photos with other people and see what other people were doing, especially in this new activity that I found that I was in, hiking. And I just really didn't, think it was something that a lot of people like me did, like fat people, queer people. I felt a little not represented, I guess would be a nice way to put it. It wasn't like there's a lot of plus size people in hiking ads and magazines, and anything dealing with the outdoors typically doesn't represent someone like me. So I started an Instagram account, and I called it Fat Girls Hiking. The name sort of came from, me and my girlfriend at the time. We were hiking on this trail and just feeling a little bit like people were looking at us weird, or just kind of feeling like we didn't fit in on the trail. We didn't have like the expensive, hiking gear that everybody else had. And so we, it was just like, we would make up songs when we were hiking. So we just kind of like made up this song that was like, we're just two fat girls hiking. I don't know. It was like pretty silly. And honestly, that's how the name came about. So I used it as a hashtag, and then quickly decided I'm just going to make a whole Instagram account called Fat Girls Hiking. And I started posting pictures of places I was hiking and camping and road trips I was doing, and just like how I was accessing the outdoors as a fat queer woman, and what that was like, and letting people know where they could go. And then from there, people started using the hashtag Fat Girls Hiking, and I started seeing other people's photos under the Fat Girls Hiking hashtag, which was so cool, which is like unbelievable to feel like so alone in my experience as a fat girl hiking, and then to see other people using the hashtag. it was amazing. It was just amazing to see that happen. And then pretty quickly people were asking me things like, oh, I wanna hike with you, or like I wanna um I would love to see, in person where you're going, or we should all hike together, that kind of thing. And as a new hiker, I was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to lead hikes. I'm not a leader. I'm a newbie. I don't know. I'm just new to hiking. I don't know how to do that. So I was unsure of my ability to lead hikes, and but I really wanted to have like a space in the outdoors where I could make friends and I could hike with other people who are not going to be like, you know, rude or weird to me because I'm fat, or because I'm gay, or like make me feel othered in the outdoors just because of who I am, or because I like to go slow, or people leaving me behind, and all the kind of fears that I had as a new hiker. I realized that I could be a good leader because I had all these experiences of like what it was like to be slow, what it was like to be left behind by people on a hike, and just what that feeling of otherness. And so a lot of what became Fat Girls Hiking and how I started chapters and really making it this community was through those experiences. And now there's a book, which is just the coolest thing ever to me. So I'm going to read a little bit from the book now. And also, this whole story, I go very much in depth in the book. I think it's like the first chapter. So if you want more background, you can read the book. Okay, so I'm going to read a few sections from this. It's called Body Liberation and Nature, and that beautiful photo I took of the sunset over the ocean. Okay, Body Liberation and Nature, the Power of Words. Excuse me. I have been called fat for most of my life. The first time I can remember was in elementary school. 3 girls always picked on me for how I looked and what clothes I wore. One weekend, I got a perm at my grandma's house. It was the 80s, kids got perms. And I was excited to go back to school with my new look. In gym class, the first day back, we played volleyball or dodgeball or some game with a ball. And one of the girls said to another, "Ha, look at Summer. She looks like Shirley Temple." The other girl responded, "No, she's too fat to be Shirley Temple. She looks like Medusa." They called me Medusa for years after that. It stung. I was so ashamed. From a very young age, girls are told both implicitly and explicitly that the way we look is something people can use to harm, discredit, and shame us. Society bases our value, worth, and personal security on how attractive or pleasant we look to others. It places value on our bodies according to how they conform to arbitrary aesthetics and functionality. Diet culture is a system of beliefs that values thinness as an ideal body type and encourages weight loss, disordered eating, and exercise to achieve the idolized body type by any means. It affects every facet of our society and is upheld by all the systems of oppression woven into that fabric, including white supremacy, patriarchy, colonial standards of beauty, capitalism, gender norms, and cis heteronormativity. Diet culture is steeped in ableism, racism, classism, sexism, and shame, and it equates thinness to a person's moral value. I'm trying to remember if I keep reading this part. It's a long chapter. Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit more here. Fat phobia is defined as the fear of fat people, or becoming fat. It is a cog in the wheel of diet culture, as is anti-fatness. People of all sizes are affected by fat phobia, but people in fat bodies are the ones who face oppression, stigma, bias, and discrimination. What I experienced in gym class was fat phobia and anti-fatness, but I didn't know that at the time. All I felt was deep shame for who I was. Okay, now I'm going to fast forward a little bit in this same chapter. My formative years were difficult at times, but they gave me strength. I forged a path to body adoration that, without a doubt, led down trails lined with old growth trees and waterfalls, deep in the forests of the Pacific Northwest. I didn't know my body's strength and resilience until I put myself in situations where I had to rely on my intuition, knowledge, and creative problem solving to get my fat body from the trailhead through the woods and to the destination. I learned to trust my body. I learned to trust myself. I spun myself around, head thrown back to look up at the canopy of trees overhead, and much of the shame society placed on my body fell away. I'm fat and I want to be considered a real hiker. When I first began hiking on a regular basis, it seemed like a label I wasn't allowed to claim. Hikers look a certain way, I was told. Hikers have certain gear, I was told. Hikers traverse a specific landscape, distance, and elevation gain. Even though I went on hikes that challenged me and continued to hike farther than I'd ever gone before, I couldn't be a real hiker because I was fat. Research and knowledge were integral to building my confidence and making me comfortable enough to call myself a hiker. I didn't know, I'm fast forwarding it again. All I knew was that I would do my best, listen to my body, and honor my needs. I would often be sweaty, out of breath, tired, and the slowest person on the trail. But when I made it to the summit or waterfall or whatever my destination was, it always felt like another seed of trust planted within me. The hike back down felt like growth. I would be so happy. I could hear romantic comedy, happy ending music in my mind. I was goofy, silly, chatty, and giddy. Those endorphins carried over into my everyday life. My body confidence grew as my hiking confidence grew. I began to crave the outdoors and made a places to hike list. No matter where I was, I yearned for the long paths along forest creeks, the color of evergreen trees. It no longer mattered to me what I looked like or what gear I had or what people said about me. The only mirrors in the outdoors are the ones that self-reflect. Okay, that's why I'm going to stop for now. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can connect to the outdoors. I talk about this in the book, but also I just love to reiterate it to people. This organization and hiking is my passion, and like helping people find a place in the outdoors for themselves is really important to me. I think that the more people we have in the world who feel connected to nature, the more people we have wanting to protect it. And I think that there's such a great mental health benefit to being outside. And it can look like anything. I often tell people like, we don't have to place pressure on ourselves as far as like, what a hike is. Well, what is defined as a hike? I think any kind of walking in nature is wildly beneficial to us, even if it's in an urban area. We're like intentionally looking at the types of trees around us, or noticing how the wind is moving through the leaves. Just these little things, we can do that wherever we are. If we're in a city, if we're in an urban area, if we're in a suburb, like there's going to be some sort of nature wherever you are. And so just really like making that intention to connect with the nature around you. You can be sitting in a chair. If you're walking, you can go as slow as you want. You can go at a pace that feels good to you. There's no expectations. I think it's sometimes trickier especially for me, when I first started hiking, to advocate for my needs as far as like the pace of the hike. I definitely didn't speak up at times. I didn't feel comfortable to, and I didn't have a good time because of it, to be honest. And I would get left behind and I would feel a lot of shame for that. So, and so I know it's not easy to speak up and say like, this is too fast, or it doesn't feel good when everybody goes ahead of me. But those are two really things that have really helped me, to remind myself that I deserve to be in the outdoors in a way that like meets my needs. And if other people aren't willing to like, accommodate your needs and, try it by yourself, I think that hiking alone is really beneficial for me. I like to bring a journal or a book and, find a little spot just to sit, and be surrounded by nature. I think it's such a beautiful thing. Highly encourage you to bring this book if you have it. And so those are some of my more like self-care kind of tips. that, sometimes we have going on in our heads when we're starting a new activity, especially if you're marginalized or if you don't see yourself represented in the outdoors. There are other people like you. If you want to start, you can try things like, I was very nervous to I didn't know how far I could hike when I first started. So if you want to get one of those apps that can track your distance, you can try walking in a place where you have cell service and maybe there's Lyft or Uber nearby. So if you weren't able to walk back, then you would have access to that, or bus or something. So try to see how far is comfortable for you for walking, in an urban area or an area where you have access. And then you can go online. There's lots of good apps. Some of the apps have not been as reliable as I like, so I just try Googling and looking at several different sources for information. I typically like hikes that are 2 miles round trip, so which would mean I would be hiking out a mile and then back a mile, or if it's a loop trail, which means you'll be walking basically kind of in a circle, not ever going back on the same trail. That's good to know what kind of hike will work for you. I also try to think what do I want to see? I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I have access to, ocean, river, forests, stuff like that, waterfalls. So whatever you have near you, or even if you're traveling, I always Google best easy hike Seattle, and then just kind of scroll and see what piques your interest. And I think if you're excited about what you're going to see on the hike, that's always a good place to start. And then I also want to encourage people to think about what they're bringing and what they're wearing. I just say, if you don't have hiking gear, don't worry about it. Just wear what you would wear to a gym. Active wear is really good. If you just have sneakers, that's totally fine. You don't need to have hiking boots or special gear. You don't have to. I mean, you can. It's if it's an activity you enjoy and you do all the time, there is. I do enjoy having specific outdoor gear to keep me dry and comfortable when I am hiking in the rain or in the cold or whatever. So I think having even a good backpack would be the only thing I would say is having a comfortable backpack where you can have water and snacks and any sort of navigation that you might need to make sure you are on the right path. And then also another thing to think of is your expectations for the hike. I oftentimes thought I could do a hike that in the moment I was maybe in pain and I have chronic pain, so my body just wasn't feeling it. And I always set myself up for a better experience by saying, I can stop this hike whenever I want. I can turn around whenever I want to. I don't have to get to the destination. The destination is wherever I decide to turn around. And something about shifting my mindset in that way really just gives me permission to make the hike whatever I want when it's happening and be present in the moment. And then there's something that's feels really healing when I allow myself that kind of space and that kind of care. And I invite you to do that for yourselves if you are able to. Okay, I'm going to read another little section from the book. This one, someone so sweetly said it reminded them of a response to Mary Oliver's work, which is so flattering because I love Mary Oliver. I don't know if y'all have read. I can show you. My van is full of books. This is one of my favorite poetry books Mary Oliver wrote. But she writes a lot about nature, which, I like nature, so that's cool. And I just love her perspective, what she sees, and then how she writes what she sees in the outdoors. It's so beautiful. And so anyway, someone said that about this piece, and I was like, shh, okay, I don't see it, but thank you. Such the hugest compliment to me ever. So it's called When We Were Animals, That Essential Connection. And there's a beautiful sunset, another beautiful sunset photo that I took. Okay. Humans are animals. We often forget this. We wall ourselves up in boxes, homes, offices, automobiles, and become indoor. Deprived of our instincts to connect with the natural world, we become something other. Our culture presents this indoor life as the only way to live successfully. I'm not here to judge or shame anyone for enjoying an indoor life. Life outdoors is not accessible or safe for everyone, and I recognize the privilege I have in living the way I do. My goal is to offer an alternative to the mainstream narrative that we must work, grind, and hustle indoors to be accepted. There are many ways to live a life. As children, we are told many things. We are told not to get dirty, to be careful, don't hurt yourself, the adults say. We are sheltered behind well-meaning caregivers. We aren't encouraged to be curious. We are taught to behave. At certain points in my childhood, I was taught manners and etiquette and to sit up straight, but I was also lucky enough to have a mom who would push my siblings and me out the door, telling us to go play. I didn't understood. I didn't understood. That seems wrong. I didn't understand then how much of a gift it was to roam the woods without adults, using my imagination and getting lost in the worlds I created. Feral cats became my guides through the woods, and I was their queen. Once an owl swooped down to the low branch of a birch tree and showed me the way to her nest, with her babies, small and fuzzy. The train tracks we walked on led far away from the boring cornfields of my small town. There are a million stories to be told. As I connect with outdoor spaces as an adult, I remember what it is to be whole. I remember the imaginative play from when I was a child in the woods, an intimate connection to that outdoor space. It'd be difficult to maintain that connection now. Yes, we are animals, but we have bills to pay, work to do, and tasks to tidy and maintain our boxes and the people in them. Luckily, we don't need much to be made whole. A yard, a trail, a beach, a wild forest far from any town, or a park in the middle of a city can all provide connection. Why do we humans feel so good after we've spent time outdoors? We are animals, and it's in our nature. Put your bare feet on the sand or grass, or wherever you find yourself on the earth. Touch the leaves of a tree, trace its lifelines, and note the sensation under your fingertips. Jump into a glacial-fed river on a hot summer day. Yes, it will be cold, but once you're back ashore, you'll feel the most alive you've ever felt. Your skin will tingle and you'll feel lit up from the inside. Pick up that rock you just kicked. What is it made of? Taste the place you came from with the tip of your tongue. Maybe it's raining. Take off your rain jacket. Strip your armor. The armor we are told we should always keep on. Remove it. Feel the cool drops on your warm mammal skin. Close your eyes and feel the warm sun on your face. You can do this anywhere, city, town, or wild space. Take note of what you see, what you emote, what you awaken within yourself once you've made an intentional connection to the natural world. Your senses are now wide open. You are alive, a remarkable thing. We humans feel the effects of modern life on our mental and emotional well-being. We are stressed and anxious. When we lack a connection to nature, fear and anger are always near the surface. But when we are outdoors, the chemicals in our brains behave differently. By honoring the land and our connections to it, our emotions, thoughts, and habits become nourishing rather than harmful. Our instincts aren't only to survive, but also to feed the curious mammal child within us. At this point in my life, I'm outside most of the day, every day. My life is no longer walled up in a box. When I gave up the safety and comfort of an apartment for a van, I gave myself the gift of realizing I'm an animal that needs to place my bare feet on wet grass, even if that means I step on a few jagged rocks. I'm an animal that craves knowing the names for trees, plants, flowers, birds, and other mammals. It seems a human thing to crave, but curiosity and knowledge benefit us. I seek to remember the patterns and migrations of life changes as they were before modern ways of being stripped me of what I must have once known. The energy I absorb outdoors has been instrumental in improving my quality of life. Joy is easier for me to cultivate under the watchful eyes of a hawk that soars above trees older than I am. This outdoor life is not always easy, nor does everybody understand it, but it's a good life. As a curious human animal, open to the possibilities of every single day. I like that one. I also, let's see, it's 4:30, so we have about 30 minutes left. I wanted to talk a little bit about this book specifically. It's published by Timber Press, and they were so great to work with. I think they make beautiful books, and I'm obviously biased because they published my book. But the thing that I really loved about making this book was that I could make it whatever I wanted, and I knew that I wanted to write my personal stories, which you just heard portions of two of them. And so that kind of writing I love to do myself. I love memoir style writing. That's what I focused on when I was in college. And I knew that I wanted to have trail reviews because, before the pandemic, there were like 37 chapters of Fat Girls Hiking. Now there's less active chapters, and we're still trying to figure out how to navigate group activities with the pandemic going on still. So, but I knew I wanted the ambassadors to be in the book as well. I knew I wanted them to, if they wanted to, write trail reviews, because I wanted there to be like a national, like I wanted there to be the hikes that were all over the country essentially. And so there's some things that are a little different about the trail reviews that we have in the book, because there's a little bit different things about when we lead hikes as ambassadors or hike leaders. For me, I want to know ADA accessible information. So, is the trail accessible to wheelchair users or mobility device users? I want to know some things like, is there cell service? Which to me is a safety thing, especially because I hike alone a lot. I want to know, are the bathrooms gendered? For a lot of trans and non-gender conforming folks, like that's a safety issue. And so having that information ahead of time, I think is really helpful. And I hope that more trail guidebooks follow that sort of lead that I've started with, what kind of information is needed in addition to just the basic information. And so some of the ambassadors talk about how the trail they're reviewing is how it's personally a space for them that they're really connected to, or it's like a good memory of a group hike that they led, or they just love it for whatever reason. So that's really cool to have their knowledge and feedback in the book about these specific trails. And then I have these great community spotlights. I just flipped to one, so I'll just show you. But they look like this. They're kind of, can you see it? That's Sam. And so there's photos of them that they submitted, and then just a little bit about who they are and how they accessed the outdoors when they were kids, and how they access the outdoors now as adults, and what barriers do they face, and barriers and that kind of stuff. And I don't people about their experiences in the outdoors as a kid, and then it seems that there's, for most people in the book, there's a couple exceptions, but most have lost their connection to the outdoors, and a lot of times because of their size and not feeling sort of comfortable in those spaces for their size. And so it's cool to have the community spotlights, shining a light on these amazing people who are just, I was going to swear, but I decided not to because it's a library, but just like doing outdoors. And I also talk about van life in the book. I've been living in a van for 4 years. I started out in my mom's minivan, which was very rusty because it was from Minnesota, which is where I'm from as well. And there's a lot of salt on the roads there. So And it was a great first van for me. I learned a lot and I had so much fun and broke down a couple of times also, which is part of van life. And now I'm in this incredible van here that's behind me. There's my photos and stuff. I have a lot of books in here, and I can stand all the way up, and it's great. I highly recommend people trying van life if they can. There's some good companies in Portland that I think it's called Escape Vans. So people can try it out. It's really fun. It's like glamping every day, essentially. I actually stayed at an actual campground last night and I was feeling pretty fancy. Typically if I'm traveling, I'll stay at truck stops or Walmart parking lots, which is not very fancy, but the rent's pretty good. Anyways, so I don't know if people have questions. I'm gonna just keep talking, but you know, if we wanted to give people the opportunity to turn on their cameras to ask questions, or do we just want them in the chat?
Either way, that's fine. If people want to unmute or video yourself, go right ahead.
Yes.
I've changed the settings, so if people do want to unmute themselves, they can.
Thank
Summer,
you.
I know we're losing you a little bit here and there with your Wi-Fi.
Oh no.
It's very like intermittent, but yeah, you're good.
Well, I'll start with a question while other people are thinking, or you can feel free to type it in the chat. But a question I had was the use of the term body positivity. I know some of your profiles in the book use that term. Some people didn't like that term. What are your thoughts on that?
I used to use the term body positivity when I first started back rails hiking. I feel like the body positivity has it became mainstream, and in this way tends to happen when things become mainstream, honestly. And so I kind of have swayed away from it. I tend to think of like body positivity as like when we think about ourselves and our bodies and body image. And for me, the positivity doesn't always connect for me, because I think like having a body is hard no matter what. And if you're marginalized or you're fat or you face discrimination or bias because of your body, I just think it's an unrealistic expectation to be positive about something that when you're in a culture that's like oppressing you because of your body. But I also think like this is very nuanced, and I also think that there's a lot of great stuff around body positivity that really does help people with their body image and with just like thinking about their own connections to their own body. And I think that is amazing, and I think that's beneficial to people of all sizes, and I do think that is important. And so I think of body positivity as like yourself, and then I think about like body liberation or fat liberation is more of like, how are we going to change these systems, these cultural systems that cause the oppression, right? Like how can we like structurally make change for the bigger society that will, I think, impact on a broader scale, not just on ourselves. So that's sort of my distinction that I have pretty common. I know that there are some, I don't want anyone to like feel shamed or bad if they use the term body positivity. Like, I just don't connect with it for reasons, and I think it's totally okay if people do. So I don't want anybody to feel bad about that, please.
Great, thank you. Teresa has a question. Have you considered continuing the series with books on biking, camping, or other outdoor activities?
I would like a follow-up of like another book. Is that was that the question?
Yes, I think they're asking, yeah, they want you to write
Yes.
more books, Summer.
I would love to. Honestly, it would be a dream for me to write another book. I always thought I have this like in my notes folder of my phone, which is where you put everything, right? Poetry and your writing. No, it's not a good place to do that. But I do have a list of like my dreams, and so to check the book off is pretty cool. And so now I'm like, okay, so I guess dreams can come true. Who knew? That's pretty cool. And so I've been like adding more to that list. And a dream would be to write a memoir because that is what I love to write. Um, but publishing a book on all sorts of activities would be really cool. And also like I am not fluent in all these activities. I personally always thought I would do like the next thing I kind of want to do on my dream list is I would love to do um like a travel show or like a reality show or even just like film myself and make my own little videos about basically that. Like, okay, I'm gonna like travel around in my van, meet other fat people or queer people or marginalized people who are doing cool stuff in the outdoors and like try the activity that they love. And I'm sure it would be hilarious because I'm not naturally good at things athletically when I try them for the first time. So entertaining, I'm sure. But that is kind of like what I would love. I would love to be like Anthony Bourdain, but I'm like, this fat woman and I'm like eating food and riding a mountain bike, which I've never done, or I don't know what else I would do. Paragliding. That doesn't funny. And fun and an experience. So that's sort of it's really hard to think of what I want to do next because I'm still like, this is my last book event, which is so cool. And the book tour has been so fun and kind of exhausting and take a little time to like be in this sort of blissful place of like, I can't believe it. I wrote I'm proud of myself for doing all of that. So yeah, I would love to write another book. I guess it's a very long-winded answer to a question.
Great. And I'm all in on the television show. That sounds great. All right, we have a question from Olivia. In the book, you mention great intersectional organizations that inspired you and the start of Fat Girls Hiking. Have you or any of the ambassadors partnered with these organizations or movements? How do you interact with other outdoor organizations with similar and amazing goals?
Yes, you were cutting out a little bit, but I think the question was the list of the organizations that I learned from, essentially. Latino Outdoors, I did some great hikes with them. We partnered a bunch. The first couple of years of Fat Girls Hiking, we like co-led some hikes in Yosemite, California, Northern California. I feel like they went to one of their community campouts and they were like so amazing and like and I learned so much from them. They have built an amazing community and I love what they're doing. And so was the other organizations, Trail Dames. I think they gave me an award for like Trailblazer of the Year, which was so cute. I had the other organizations that I listed, but yeah, I love them and I'm so excited that they exist for people to enjoy and learn from and get outside with,
Olivia had another question. Do you have a favorite memoir? And how do you feel about celebrity memoirs?
Yes, I love all memoirs, to be honest, even celebrity ones. like I love documentaries too. It's kind of the same one. Like I will watch every documentary, even the ones about. But yes, my favorite memoir, oh my gosh, I think A House on Mango Street, is that considered a memoir? I'm not sure if that's the genre. Narrows, A House on Mango Street. I really love Wild, obviously. That book really kind of opened my, it was like right when I started hiking, I think, or right before I really got into hiking. So reading that book really kind of solidified some things about my desire to hike. And Cheryl Strait I was living in Portland at the time. She was a local writer. There's like a lot of connections. She's from Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota. So I started rereading it again for the of course I'm like totally drawing a blank on all of the many memoirs that I've read in my life. I'm like looking around at all my book piles and I'm like, I don't know. But yes, celebrity memoirs. Oh my gosh. Okay, Whitney Way Thor, who's on that show, My Big Fat Fabulous Life. I read her memoir, enjoyed it. I don't really remember a lot of it, but I got it from the library. Favorite. Um, Buying books too because I just want to be surrounded by books at all times. It's just my life. Do I have any? I don't. That would be thought into favorite memoirs. I really enjoy reading all genres, but I recently started to enjoy reading fiction, which I typically would read nonfiction and memoir and like poetry and prose and that kind of stuff. And I've been getting a lot like winding down the books where I was like, I really just want to spend a lot of time reading. So I've been going to the library every week, and we have this lovely garden right next to our little library. And so I'll go to my library and get a couple of the new fiction books that I find on the or I'll put them on hold or something and I'll check them out. And then I'll just go sit in the garden and read for a bit. It's just been like so lovely to have that time in my life again to really read. I think there's two books I read that were like, I read them in like 2 days. Like I just never do that. So I'm just so excited to be um reading things other than my own book. Like I love my book, but like I'm sick of it. Months of promoting it and doing so many events. I'm like so excited to be reading.
Great. Thank you. We have another question. I don't know if yep, I think we lost you for a second.
Oh no.
Okay, good. If someone were to visit Oregon for the first time, what are a couple of hikes you would 100% want them to go on? Or do you have any secret places you didn't put in the book because they were so special to you?
Mm. Yes, 100% visit Oregon. People come to like Oregon or specifically Portland in the summer and are like, oh my gosh, I want to live here. Honestly, hiking in the rain is kind of amazing too. But like if it's not your jam, visit in the summer in the drier months. There's like the so when you come into Portland, there's Gorge is this beautiful scenic area. It's about 40 minutes outside of Portland. There's like so many waterfalls in this one area. And there's like incredible views of the Columbia River. There are, yeah, I don't think I mentioned this area really in the book. But there's a few kind of shorter wall hikes that I love. One is called Waklella, WAH. No, I'm spelling it wrong. Maybe I can spell it in the chat. This might be wrong. Waklella Falls hike, and I think it's 2 miles. Yeah, I think it's to the waterfall and 1 elevation gain. There are spots where the trail is pretty narrow. But the thing that's really cool is the trail is going along this creek the whole time you're hiking towards the waterfall. It's like these, big cliffs, like, and I don't know, it's just like magical. And there's like old logs in the pool of the water. And I mean, you can swim in it if you want to, if you're brave. It's pretty cold. And that would be one that's like kind of one of the hikes when people I know you don't hike, but I would take people that don't hike on that, and they loved it because it's really like pretty minimal effort, which I know is subjective, for someone who's really slow and who has pain. That's my experience with that. Falls you can see right from the road. Lateral Falls is a really good one where from the parking lot, you see you can kind of hike up to the top of the waterfall, and then there's a second waterfalls. And I want to say that that's maybe a 3-mile hike, and you can do it as a loop, which I would highly recommend. I used to take the kids I nanny on that hike. So, we would just take it real slow and check out all the bugs on the way. But that's a really good one. That's close to Portland. I live at the coast. Is amazing. I wouldn't live here if it wasn't, to be honest. I am obsessed with the ocean. There's lots of like old growth trees and moss if you're into moss, which I am. There's one of my favorite spots. You can climb to the top of this mountain and see an amazing view of the ocean. Or you can like go down to the beach on this other trail, and it's like a mile. I think it's 1.2 miles round trip. So half a mile down, you can walk on the beach and go to the end of the beach, and there's a waterfall. And so that's called Short Sands Beach. It is reviewed in the book by the Portland ambassador. So those would be my suggestions. I feel like Oregon for like forests, mossy forests, and like waterfalls. So those would be my suggestions. But also, you can email me or DM me, and I will send you a list if you come to Oregon, because there's so much. And depending on where you're staying or where you're wanting to go, I have lots of knowledge. And I've been pretty much everywhere. So
Great, thank you. I have a message from Tithy. She had to leave, but she said, please tell Summer I just started following her on Instagram, and I'm excited to check out this book as someone that identifies as a fat runner. And she says, thank you.
yes, thank you. I was really inspired by Myrna Valerio, who had a blog when I first started fat girls hiking, called Fat Girl Running. And it was really like the first thing that I saw that used the word fat on social media in this like positive way, not as like, she's trying to lose weight, or she's, promoting, really just like, I'm running, I'm a girl, and just sort of like, and now she's like this superstar. So it's like, I love her. So I'm not a runner myself. I don't like it. I've tried, but I love that other people love it.
Well, I have a plug for people on the East Coast that love waterfalls in particular. My daughter happens to be in school in Ithaca, New York. Fabulous place. I suggest it, Summer, if you're ever in that area. Absolutely beautiful trails and waterfalls.
Yes. Anytime there's a waterfall, I will. Time I travel somewhere, I definitely Google that just in case, because I don't know. There's like the negative ions, right? Like there's something that happens to the chemicals in our brain when we're around moving waters. But specifically waterfalls, I guess, because of the impact of their movement or something. So it's like proven to make you happier.
I have a question for you. I don't believe we have any chapters of Fat Girls Hiking in this area, in the Boston area. How does one go about starting what chapter?
Yeah, there was before the pandemic, there was a chapter. Uh, changes, and ambassadors' lives are changing as well, including mine. So they're not active right now. I just should say that. And I'm not sure if I'm going to start more chapters or what I'm doing with all of that. I'm just sort of like winding down the book stuff and trying to figure that all out, to be honest. I have a great retreat coming up with some of my ambassadors, and I hope to sort of figure that out. Like what's the next steps with Fat Girls Hiking? Are we going to keep opening more chapters, or I don't know. I'm at a crossroads. I'm still figuring it out, but I want there to be, honestly, and I don't know if just trying to figure out what that's going to be. And I would love for, ambassadors to feel lead hikes again, but not everyone does. And I totally respect that. And our community, as far as like, safety with the pandemic and all of that. So
I was informed there is a chapter in Manchester, New Hampshire, which isn't very far.
yeah. So there's the thing is the ambassador chapter moved, and the chapter can move with her, obviously, but there was another chapter. Yeah, so it's just like everything's kind of a mess right now with the chapters. I recently did a roll call on the Instagram page, and both. So you can go, it's a couple of posts back. It's a blue square where everybody, basically, you just leave your city wherever you are and you want to go hiking with others, and then you each other that way, because I really want people in that community where they're at. I just am not able to facilitate it right now, so I'm pretty roll call. So just scrolling who have listed Boston or wherever you're watching this from, to find others to connect with. And really, we're an anti-diet culture space, so if you're meeting up with that, we're not going to talk about weight loss, we're not going to shame each other's bodies for their abilities or the way they look, and just kind of like creating that safer space to enjoy the outdoors with each other. Tag Fat Girls Hiking when you do, so I can see it. I'm connecting with each other and getting outside.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any last questions? Feel free to unmute yourself. If not, I'm going to move on to our giveaway.
Woo! Giveaway!
We have, and of course it's backwards, but we have a lovely Fat Girls Hiking pink bag, a red and natural one, and I believe, Summer, one of your co-workers, is it Gina Marie, that makes this wonderful Fat Girls Hiking chub rub or salve?
Yeah. That's my bestie. If you're worried about that while you're hiking, you can put it on preventatively. It also kills it. I love it. Oh, I love that she sent that to you.
Yeah. That's great. Well, we're going to, Allie, one of the other librarians, will be drawing names, and you'll be notified by email tomorrow. Well, Summer, thank you so much. This was fabulous. It was so wonderful to finally get to meet you.
It's the internet dying at the end. How appropriate. Hashtag van life.
Yep. Well, believe it or not, we had trouble in the library earlier today, so it happens everywhere.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun. And good luck to everyone in their future endeavors, getting outside.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for coming.